Welcome back, everybody. This is the story about what if Naruto was abandoned by his family and was taken under Orochimaru? Before we start, I want you guys to like this video and hit the sub button, because that's what keeps me going. Now, without any further ado, start the story. Wake up, bitch! A loud voice yelled before Konan was drenched with very cold water. She woke up instantly and started shivering. She made out what seemed like a can hitting someone in the head and a no cussing. But she wasn't too sure. Her eyes opened and she went to move the air out of her eyes, but found her hands strapped to the chair. She looked around and saw a man with black hair nursing his head and a satisfied girl that also had black hair. "Where am I?" she moaned out. She then saw the man in her face, a glare on his face that she guessed was directed at her. "Well, after you guys betrayed me, failed to kill me, and got demolished, I knocked you out and tied you down so a bunch of me could have their way with you." Konan's eyes widened, suddenly scared about the chance of getting raped. Naruto then smirked. "But I'm lying about that last part. Trust me, I hate people who rape other people. Right before you decided to end me, which you failed by the way, I saved a woman and her children from being raped." "It's you," she said with venom in her voice. Naruto gave her a mock gasp. "Oh no, I don't think she likes me." He whined before his face turned serious. "But you don't have a choice to be 100% honest. 'Cause it's either help me achieve peace or die a horrible death. Which, by the way, will be very, very brutal," Naruto said, his voice and face saying he was completely serious. Konan blew her blue hair out of her face, her amber eyes looking into Naruto's coal black. "Fine. But that doesn't mean I have to like it." She was instantly unbounded. Naruto clapped his hands. "Great. I didn't even to have set Satsuki-chan on you. She's been feisty lately." He then leaned in her ear, his eyes on Satsuki. "She's been staring at me like I'm a piece of meat." Konan rose an eyebrow before she realized something. She wasn't wearing any clothes. She instantly shrieked and tried to cover herself as best as she could. Naruto laughed. "Finally noticed, have ya? Oh well, your clothes are over there by the way. Come out after you get dressed." He then walked up and opened the door. He looked back once more, his eyes trailing her body. "By the way, your body is beautiful," he said, before shutting the door behind him, leaving a flushed red Konan. Later, Konan walked into the room, her face still red from embarrassment. She glared at Naruto from the corner of her eyes, earning a smirk from the powerful teen. She sat down at the table and noticed that a blonde was there too. Naruto saw her looking at Samui and started a conversation. "Konan, this is Samui-chan. Samui-chan, this is Konan. She will be working with us for a while." "Konan, this is Satsuki-chan. She's my oldest friend," he finished, glancing at Satsuki before taking out a piece of paper. "The Akatsuki is over. Finished. No one that was ever in it is alive right now besides you and I. As you saw, I personally dealt with it. But now, as usual, I will have to go somewhere to make up with a few people. I gave them unnecessary hate that they didn't deserve. I will see you all later," he said before he Kamui'd away. Samui gave Konan a glare. "You better back off, he's mine," Samui said before she was shoved away. Satsuki now stood where she was once standing. "Please, I knew him since he was 6. I knew him even better when my family adopted him, so ha," Satsuki said smugly, a smirk on her face. "Doesn't that make him your brother?" Samui asked, an innocent smile on her face. Satsuki blushed madly. "And no, it's not the same," she yelled before she ran off. "Samui, 1, Satsuki, 2, she said, a pleased smirk on her face. Konan just sat there awkwardly, not completely understanding what she had witnessed. Konoha. Naruto was currently sitting down on Team 7's old training ground with his eyes closed as he waited for the chakra signatures to arrive. He waited a few more minutes before 2 people appeared. Menma and Naruko Namikaze. "Greetings, brother, sister. Or, halfway anyway," Naruto said as he kept his eyes closed. Menma glared at his half-brother. "You have nerve, I'll give you that. Killing all those people, wiping IWA off the map, and then expecting us to come to you peacefully. How do we know it's not a trap?" he asked suspiciously. "If I wanted you dead, I would wipe Konoha off the map just like I did in IWA. Naruto said. But other than that, I came to make amends with you too. When I was younger and still in the village, I treated you like trash, even though you didn't deserve it fully. Keyword being fully. Naruto then stood up and opened his eyes. So, I guess this is where I say I'm sorry for being such a douche. Heh. If I knew you were being sincere, I wouldn't have told Tsunade, Naruko said as she scratched the back of her head, clearly embarrassed. Naruto's eyes widened. Wait, wadash was all he said before he was wound up in chakra chains. He looked back and saw Kushina Uzumaki staring at him. He looked around and saw that he was surrounded by all the elite Jonins and Umbu, also including the Sannin and the Hokage himself. He tried to use his chakra but found that he couldn't activate. Damn, must be the Uzumaki bloodline, he muttered. His eyes scanned the crowd before his eyes landed on two people. Ah, so Kakashi and Ai and Ankone finally got married. Sorry I wasn't there for it, he said. Kakashi looked at Naruto, regret in his eye. He was about to say something but Naruto beat him to it. Yes, Obito Uchiha is my half-brother. Killed by IWA ninja a month ago. Kakashi was about to say something but once again, Naruto spoke again. I don't need the Sharingan to tell what you're thinking, Kakashi and Ai, he said smiling. He then felt someone's presence beside him. He looked and saw Hiruzen Sarutobi. Gigi. He whispered before his eyes felt like looking at the ground for a few minutes. Don't be ashamed or feel guilty, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen's soft voice spoke. You made these decisions on what you thought was right. You followed your heart. Don't be guilty of such a thing, he said before he patted Naruto's head twice. You've grown since the last time I saw you. Back then, you were tiny for a kid your age, but could still pack a punch. Hiruzen smiled sadly at the boy he saw as a grandson before walking away. The next person who walked up to was none other than Orochimaru. Naruto looked at him in surprise. Uncle Orochi? Orochimaru nodded. How's that sword I gave you? Still in working order, I hope. Naruto nodded, a tear sliding past his face. Orochimaru looked him up and down before grinning. I always knew you'd be powerful. I just never thought you'd use it against the hidden leaf. Tsunade was the one to walk up to him. I hope you rot for what you did. Naruto glared at her. Shut up and turn to dust already, you old bag of shit, he yelled with a smile on his face. He quickly moved his head away from a punch. Go to hell, she yelled. Naruto then smiled wickedly. I'll see you there, he said in a cold voice. 'Cause when I get free, I will make sure to send you straight there. I heard the stories. You were one of the people that suggested you leave me behind because you thought I might endanger the other children. Tsunade froze in her place. Oh yeah, I know about that, and I know a lot more than that too. I have a spy network that extends even farther than Jiraiya. 'Cause you see this? He jerked his head sideways, moving the hair out of his right eye, showing his Rinnegan. I can summon any animal I please. That means when you see a bird, that's me watching everything. I use clones for that method, but it works all the same, he said without a care in the world. Tsunade started walking away. This time Jiraiya came up to him. You have balls, brat. I'll give you that. But this time there's no running away or getting out of this, 'cause this time, I'm making sure you can't break the chakra suppressors, he said with a smirk. Oh please, there's nothing that you can do that will hurt me. Madarajiji made sure of that, Naruto said with a smirk. Crazy old bastard hit me with every poison he could and made me break every chakra seal invented. However, chakra chains were something he didn't have, so couldn't test it at all. Jiraiya huffed before he walked away. Minato was the next one to approach him. Hello, Hokage-sama. Naruto nodded with a smirk. Have you thought about your surrender yet? Naruto asked, earning laughs from the surrounding shinobi. Naruto turned his head and glared at most of them. Naruto Uchiha, as Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, I hereby sentence you to life in prison, or execution determining on what the council votes. Your crimes are here as stated. Murder, plot of assassination, mass murder, abandonment of village, and conspiracy against Konoha. Minato choked out, not looking Naruto in the eye. Ah yes, let's put my life in the hands of the people who wanted me dead anyway.
Real smart Minato.
An abandonment? Please, even though Kushina is not my blood mother, she was responsible for me, you both should be charged for child abuse and child neglect. Seeing as how I've been tortured and beat by many of the shinobi standing before you, you better hope that I get life in prison Minato Namikaze, cause if that council sentences me to death, I will kill all the ninja here except for those I still care about. I will also destroy the village. So go ahead, take me, Naruto yelled. Minato nodded and motioned for Kushina to take Naruto away. 10 minutes later, Naruto sat in his cell, chakra chains still all around him while Kushina sat across from him, a frown on her face. Naruto then looked at the ceiling, devising a plan to escape. Zetsu, I want you to tell the girls about this. And no, don't eat the woman in front of me, Naruto said before he looked at Kushina with cold dead eyes, making her look anywhere else but him. At the base, Chidori, Satsuki yelled as she tried to hit the Kumo shinobi, but failed as she was kicked away by the raikage. Samui was currently being tied up and dragged across the ground while Konan was dealing with a group of shinobi. I only want Samui. Leave the others, I yelled as he walked out with Samui in tow. Satsuki fell down with chakra exhaustion, frustrated that she failed to protect her rival. All the Kumo ninja had left and now only Konan and Satsuki stood in the cave before Zetsu appeared and looked around. Naruto-sama will be most unpleased. 5 Kumo Jonin stood in the Hokage office, delivering a letter to the Hokage of course, concerning Naruto Uchiha. Minato looked at the letter before opening it and reading it. Dear Hokage Dano, I have read some exciting news that your village has finally captured Naruto Uchiha. Let me be the first Kage to congratulate you for capturing that menace. I hope this reaches you in time. Before you execute Naruto Uchiha, show him the tape in one of my jonins contain. It will break his spirit, and your people will enjoy it as well. Farewell, I the 4th Raikage. Minato finished reading the letter and grabbed the tape and shrugged. Why not show him? It'd be the last thing he'd see before Naruto Uchiha died. Tucking it away for later, he signaled that his ANBU get Naruto and prepare him for execution. 3 hours later, Naruto was currently walking through the village with Kushina in tow, taking punishment from the villagers once again. He shrugged it off like he usually did. He looked like he hadn't eaten for days. His hair was a mess, and he had bags under his eyes from lack of sleep. All in all, he looked like shit. When they reached the execution square, Naruto noticed a large screen right in front of it. He rose a single eyebrow, but thought nothing of it. He walked down to it, noticing the graduating class he knew were there, glaring at him. He saw Kakashi and Anko looking at him with pity. He saw Konohamaru and Hiruzen looking at him with indifferent faces. But Hiruzen looked like he knew what was going to happen. He nodded slightly to the old man, receiving one in return. He walked up the wooden stairs and sat in the chair. He was pushed in before the Hokage appeared. Naruto Uchiha, you are hereby sentenced to death by beheading. But first, as a request from Kumo, we will watch a video, Minato said. Naruto looked at the blank screen before it blinked to life. Greetings, people of Konoha, I said, his one arm by his side. If this tape is being played, then it is obvious that Naruto Uchiha is being sentenced to death. Thank God. Cheers and shouts of joy were heard throughout the village. But as you see, Naruto, I have a gift for you. You took my family away, and I will take a part of yours. Say hi to the traitor, and witness what we do to them. I faded out of the image to be replaced by a screenful of Samui, being branded on her cheek, her screams echoing throughout the village. The screen then showed Samui crying as she was being raped. Naruto had tears running down his face as he watched what the screen portrayed, while Minato had a look of disgust on his face. The image of the raping of Samui changed to see her body bruised and bloodied, tied to a large stake. Naruto watched in horror as gasoline was drenched on her before many ninja blew fire onto her. Her screams of pain echoed in Naruto's head. The video of Samui changed to a pleased smile on Ice face. I hope you are pleased with this, Naruto Uchiha. That will be the last thing on your mind before your death. The screen went dark once again. Naruto sat in the chair, his black hair covering his eyes as his head was down, crying silently. You could have said no, he whispered before he looked at the screen. You could have said no. You didn't have to come with me. He screamed before he started twitching. His hands were clenched so hard that blood was falling from them. He glared at Minato. If I wasn't in your prison, I could have saved her, he cried. You killed her. You killed my friend. Naruto yelled in anguish as the golden chakra chains that had been keeping him held turned a dark black. And now, I'll kill your wife. Naruto yelled as the black chains reached Kushina's body. She cried out in pain as the chains disappeared. She fell to the ground and was screaming. Minato rushed to her. Kushina-chan. What's wrong? He yelled in panic before a realization appeared in his head. Naruto Uchiha was free. You better hope that I get life in prison, Minato Namikaze, 'cause if that council sentences me to death, I will kill all the ninja here except for those I still care about. Those words echoed in Minato's head as he slowly turned around and looked in horror as he saw free Naruto staring right at him with his Sharingan active, a cruel smirk across his face. In the next minute, Kushina Uzumaki will be dead due to chakra poisoning. Over the days, I slowly pushed small bits of chakra into the chains, in hopes of knocking her out. But when I saw that fucking tape, I decided to take someone you cared about, Naruto said. Minato looked at Kushina's weak form before she fell limp in his arms. Dead. He stood up. You'll pay for that, Naruto Namikaze Uchiha. Minato said, his teeth gritted. Naruto sighed before dozens of ANBU surrounded him. He looked at all his precious people in the village. I will keep my promise. After I take everyone that I care about out of the village, I'll kill Tsunade first, then Jiraiya. Uncle Orochi will be safe. The boy Namikaze will be safe. If he chooses to bring his sister, then she will be as well. But everyone else that was cruel to me before, I'll kill you all. The Umbu charged him at once, but were instantly repelled by an invisible force. Oh please, I took down IWA in less than 5 minutes. I could easily do that to you. I will do it to Kumo though. No one will be spared. He then disappeared in a kamui. What have we done? Minato whispered to himself. Raikage's office. I was doing paperwork with a smile on his face for once. He was happy. Naruto Uchiha was dead. Therefore, his brother was avenged and the world was safe again. Or that's what he thought. He heard his secretary scream in the other room before he now dead and bloody body was through the doors of his office and landed on his desk. Mabui, he whispered. He then looked up and almost died on the spot from heart attack. There stood Naruto Uchiha, alive and well, and with a look of revenge in his eye. Naruto walked up to I slowly, his EMS burning bright red, spinning like there was no tomorrow. There won't be, not for Kumo anyway. You tortured her? Naruto said as he cut off Ice's other arm with a swipe of his sword, making the man grunt in pain. Your me raped her? Naruto used Chidori to cut off both of the Raikage's legs, making him a limbless man. You killed her. Naruto screamed as he cut Ice's body in half vertically. Naruto closed his eyes and felt the incoming chakra signatures. His eyes opened before he held out both palms. Almighty push! He yelled loudly as the whole office along with several streets of Kumo were now destroyed, killing everyone in the deadly jutsu's path. I believe it's time for Naruto Uchiha to destroy his second village, Naruto said. 10 minutes later, Naruto stood on top of the now flattened village that was once known as Kumo. Trees were everywhere, used to impale bodies of the shinobi who got in Naruto's path. Naruto then shoved his fist into the dirt and made a small little cross and carved Samui's name into it. It read, Here lies Samui, a person that was loyal and helped her friends. You will be missed. Naruto stood up and walked away from the ashes of Kumo with one thought in his head. Next time, it will be Konoha I will be walking upon. Quick side note, last chapter and this chapter are Eminem songs. Oh, Naruto walked into the cave. His eyes had large bags under them. He had walked all the way there from Kumo without sleep, fearing the nightmares that might plague his mind. He saw Satsuki pacing the room worriedly, but no sign of Konan. He let out a large sigh before he pulled out a chair and sat down. Satsuki saw the black-haired boy and rushed to him before giving him a large hug. How did you escape Konoha? Where's Samui? Did you save her? Naruto visibly flinched at her last two questions as he returned the hug. He pulled back. Kushina Uzumaki is dead. So is Samui. But I avenged her, Naruto said before he walked away. I need some rest, he said as he entered his room. He looked at his mirror on the wall before he punched it, getting his hand bloody. He looked at the blood. It should have been me, he whispered. He flipped his table, scattering the papers that had once littered it. He then broke down and started crying as he fell to his knees. He felt something grab him by the head and move it somewhere soft. He looked up and saw Satsuki stroking his hair as she sat down, his head on her thighs, like she had done when they were children. Everything is going to be okay, Naruto-kun. She cooed to him over and over again, trying to get him to stop crying. They sat there for what seemed like hours, but was actually half an hour. Naruto sat up and gave Satsuki a hug. Thank you, he whispered. She returned the hug with a smile on her face, glad to know that her Naruto was going to fine. Naruto pulled back and looked into Satsuki's eyes, their faces inches apart. Their heads unconsciously grew closer before their lips slowly met. It started slow, each of them getting a taste of their partner, but it then grew passionate and rough. Tears and saliva met as Naruto slipped his tongue in Satsuki's mouth, surprising her, but not a second later she returned it, moaning in satisfaction. He smirked into the kiss as he brushed her raven hair out of her face before he soon pinned her to the ground. His hands rubbed her thighs, making her shiver in delight. The two were about to continue to more pleasurable options, but a knock interrupted them. Naruto pulled back. A thick trace of saliva trailed between the two teenagers. Satsuki was currently as red as her favorite fruit, tomatoes. Naruto stood up. Stay here, he whispered as he smiled widely at her. She only nodded before he opened the door to reveal Conan. He blankly stared at her. Yes, I was seeing if you were back. It seems you were. Goodbye, she said, her face red as she turned away quickly. Naruto turned back to see Satsuki reading a paper that had fallen. Whatcha reading? He asked, not knowing he just doomed himself. Undo Kodo Amitsukami? What the hell? She yelled at him, showing him his to-do list. Naruto cursed. Crap, he muttered. She waved the paper in his face again. Hello? What memories did you put in my head? She yelled again. Naruto sighed before activating his EMS. How about I show you? He said before showing her the real memories. When he was done, she had tears on her cheeks. Why would you do that to me? Why would you make me feel such guilt? She said, her body trembling. How do I know my love for you is real or not when you can just place false memories? She yelled. Naruto's heart shattered right then and there. She doubted her love for him, and that is the worst pain a man can feel. I needed you to get stronger, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. I needed you to keep me a secret, so I did that. She slapped him across the face. Hard. How can I trust you now? She whispered. They stood there in silence before she began walking out. I'm leaving to try and find myself and to figure out if I truly do. If I do, I'll return. If not, I'm sorry. Naruto felt her chakra signature disappear. Conan! Zetsu! He yelled. Both former Akatsuki members stood before him in less than a minute. Yes, Naruto-sama? They said in unison. Naruto looked at both of them, his eyes hardened. Follow her and protect her with your lives. If she dies, you both die. Am I clear? He said as he put out Ki. They both nodded before they began following her as a safe distance. Naruto walked out of the cave to get fresh air. He walked into the forest and took a deep breath and closed his eyes, before exhaling and finding himself in a forest clearing. He rose an eyebrow before a familiar voice came from behind him. Cheer up, Naruto. She'll come back. Itachi's voice rang out. Naruto whirled around and saw his older adoptive brother standing just a few feet away from him. His body had a certain glow to it. Are you alive?
Sadly, no.
I wish I was there for you, but I died saving you. He saw Naruto's face and frowned before he walked up to the now-grown boy and poked his forehead. And I don't regret a thing. I would do it all over again, he said. Naruto hugged the dead ghost Itachi, a smile on his face. Thank you, Itachi and I, he said. Itachi pulled back and smiled at his little brother before he grew brighter. Looks like Kami wants me back in heaven. I'll see you later. I just hope not too much later, he said before he disappeared. Itachi always knew how to show off, and yet not brag about it at the same time. A female voice said behind him, "Indeed." A male's voice then said. Naruto turned around to see Mikoto and Fugaku Uchiha. "Mom? Dad?" Mikoto nodded. He ran up to the both of them and hugged them fiercely. "You've grown, my boy. I don't think I said that when we were forced to fight you that day," Fugaku said. "And I'm impressed on how strong you got. You truly are my son," he said, making Naruto beam in pride. Mikoto looked at her adoptive son. "My baby Naruchan," the spirit said. She began to tear up. "Why, you grew up to be so handsome," she choked out. "Satsuchan is going to be one lucky lady." Naruto looked at the ground. "If she comes back," he muttered before Mikoto placed a hand on his cheek. "She'll come back. I'm certain of it," she said before the couple grew brighter. "Seems we're going back. By Naruchan. We love you," she shouted right before she disappeared. "Well, I guess it isn't a family reunion if I'm not here," a voice said. "And the old man, I guess." A sound was heard. "Damn it!" Another hitting noise. "Geez, even when we're ghosts you're mean." Naruto turned around and saw Madara and Obito Uchiha standing there. "Gigi?"
Obito ni.
Both ghosts shifted their gazes towards Naruto, smiles on their faces. "Ah, I've seen your progress, Naruto-kun. You are practically invincible. I'm proud of you," Madara said with a proud smirk on his face. Naruto once again beamed with pride. Obito then walked up and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "I'm sorry I died. I was captured and everything. But I got to see Rin, which is really nice." He elbowed Naruto and gave him a suggestive look. "If you know what I mean." Naruto laughed. "The only time you get laid is in the afterlife." "That's classic," Naruto said, laughing as Obito's face grew red. Obito hit Naruto on the head and turned his nose up at the sky. "Ouch," was all Naruto said as he rubbed his head. Both Uchiha began glowing. "I will see you when you die, Naruto-kun. I don't mind waiting though. We'll be watching over you," Madara said as they disappeared. "You better have avenged me," a monotone voice said, a voice Naruto knew all too well. He turned around and saw Samui with a smirk. Naruto just stared at her before coming up and grabbing her in a tight hug. She smiled at him as she returned the hug. Tears spilt out of his eyes in rivers. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I was captured. I saw everything that happened to you. I'm so sorry," he whimpered. She rolled her eyes. "I don't blame you, idiot. I'm just glad those bastards didn't take my V-card." Naruto rose an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" he asked. She blushed a bright red. "Well, after a week when we met again, remember that bar? Apparently we got so drunk that we had a one-night stand afterwards. We got kicked out of the hotel the next day due to noise complaints," she said. Naruto's mouth hung open at the news. "Yeah, I only remembered because once you die, you retain all lost memories." Naruto was at loss of words. He pointed at himself, then her, then made a hole with his other hand and put the finger in it. Samui turned red before she nodded. He blushed a very cherry red. "Wow, that's interesting to know. At least I got into that," he said as he pointed at her breast. He instantly found himself implanted into the ground. "I idiot," a blushing Samui said. She then started glowing. "I guess this is it. Knowing you, I'll see you soon." She disappeared. Naruto pulled himself from the dirt and stood back up. He looked around. "Hello again," a soft voice said. He turned around to see Kushina Uzumaki. She was looking at the ground in shame. I didn't know that video was going to play. I didn't know anything about that girl. I was just ordered by Minato to hold you." "I'm sorry," she whispered. Naruto glared at the woman. "I don't know why you bother. You're not my real mother," he said harshly. Kushina smiled sadly. "I know. You were an egg my friend gave me because I thought I wasn't fertile. Boy, was I wrong," she said. "I was wrong about a lot of things, sadly. I wish I had been your mother instead of leaving you to those horrid villagers." Even if I'm not your blood mother, I wish I was. Naruto's eyes softened as he watched the woman, and I knew it was unfair of me to accuse Mikoto of stealing you away. That was horrible of me. I guess I was angry. She walked up to him slowly before putting a hand on his shoulder. But I am glad someone took you in. I'd rather you be with anyone other than with those villagers. I hope killing me helped you avenge your sad and painful life. I forgive you, Naruto whispered as he looked into her eyes. I forgive you. You may not be my real mom, but you carried me for 9 months in your stomach. That's what a real mother does. He hugged her tightly. She hugged back, her eyes watering. Thank you, she whispered over and over again before she grew bright. When you destroy Konoha, be sure that you send Minato second to Tsunade. I want to see him again. I miss him. Naruto nodded. Goodbye, Mom. Naruto found himself back in the real world again, in the same place he last remembered. He looked around, a smile on his face. I got to see my family one last time, he said with a pleased smile before he began walking away. A 3-pronged kunai hit a tree, followed by a yellow flash, and there stood Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. His face was sweating before the tree behind him exploded, the limbs breaking off into tiny needles and impaling the blonde man's body. He grunted in pain as he fell onto his knees. His breathing was rigid. He looked up and saw his attacker looking at him, their head tilted and a slightly crazed smile plastered on their face. You're a monster, Minato spouted out before the man grabbed him by the neck and lifted him in the air. A monster? I think not. I prefer the word demon. The slowly applied pressure to the Hokage's neck until a snap was heard.
No.
Naruto yelled as he woke up from the dream. His fist clenched the black blanket, his Sharingan was active. That is my pleasure, not yours, he whispered to the imaginary man he had seen in his dream. He looked at the clock and sighed. It was daytime, and today was the day. The supposed strongest village of them all would fall by his hands, and his alone. He stood up and stretched, his back popping in many areas. He put on a pair of black pants and a light white shirt on before strapping his sword to his back. He made a seal on his hand and put kunai and shuriken in them, along with wire and Madara's fan. Thought he would probably have no use for it. He walked out the room and into the kitchen to see Konan studying him silently while she sipped her tea. That's it? No menacing cloak? Or a Beato's mask? She asked. Naruto shrugged. This was one of the many outfits I wore when I was still loyal to that wretched place. It seems right. He paused before snapping his fingers. But it's missing one thing. He disappeared back into his room before he appeared back into the kitchen with something in his hands. He set it on the table softly and unwrapped the piece of cloth that held his Konoha headband. A scratch was cut onto the metal. He slowly tied it around his head and sighed. Why are you wearing that? Shouldn't you have burnt it by now? Konan asked curiously. Naruto shook his head. When I destroy that place, I want them to remember one thing. He smirked. That I was once a part of that village, and that they are the reason for why they must perish. He grabbed a biscuit that was sitting on the stove. No one the age of 18 and down shall die. A gift that I did not give the other villages. He took a bite out of the biscuit before exiting the cave house thing that the author doesn't know what to call. How are you going to single out all of the children? Aren't you just going to do a single almighty push and get it over with? Konan asked. Naruto laughed. Oh no. Sure, I'll use my Rinnegan, but not for that purpose. I want Konoha to suffer at my hands. Not by one quick and painless jutsu. She nodded in understanding. Well, good luck in your revenge. Try not to die. I need to eat somehow. Naruto deadpanned. Wow, the reason you don't want me to die is because you need me to feed you. Lucky me, he said sarcastically before walking away, a small smile on his face. He looked up at the sky and punched the air. It's time to avenge my family and myself, he yelled in determination as he disappeared in a kamui. To Konoha, Naruto saw the gates to the village he had once called home. Took a deep breath as he drew out his sword. But something was wrong. It was quiet. Absolutely quiet. He narrowed his eyes as he continued walking up towards the gate. Usually, you could hear the civilians from at least a mile away because of their loudness. But not a single peep could be heard. He walked through the gate and saw the streets empty. Then he felt it, all the chakra signatures of every single ninja in the village, enclosing and surrounding him. He smirked and closed his eyes and sat down and meditated, awaiting his prey like a good predator. All of a sudden, the whole army of ninja surrounded him. He slowly counted how many there were and sighed. It looks like I'm going to kill a good 500 amount of people. Not to mention the civilians hiding in the Hokage monument. Naruto said as he stood up, his eyes opening. He was faced with a woman praying with a cross in her hands. Ift. Not even the author could save you now, and he's God. What are you on about now, Naruto? A lazy voice said. Naruto turned his head and saw the owner. Shikamaru Nara. Are you implying that we're all being controlled by a team that loves Fanficiden? Naruto nodded. I can roll with that religion. Naruto smirked. Let me guess, Shika. You came up with this plan to capture or kill me? Shikamaru nodded. It's a 50-50th chance on who wins if my calculations are correct. Naruto smirked before making a single sign. And all of a sudden, 20 other Narutos appeared. What are your chances now? 21 of me, and around 500 of you. Shikamaru was sweating. Damn. I forgot that you had shadow clones at your disposal. This complicates things. He muttered. Naruto looked at his 20 clones. You know what to do. They nodded before charging the crowd. The army got into position, but were surprised that the clones passed them. A few chops here and there were heard, along with gasps of some people. The clones Kamui'd away. Naruto had taken away all the Konoha 12, now Konoha 10. The whole Sarutobi family, Menma and Naruko Namikaze, Kakashi and Anko Hatake along with their child, Kurinai Yuhi, Orochimaru, Moegi, and Udon. Basically everyone who treated him nicely. Now that that's over with, let the real battle begin. Minato, who is the first person I should kill? Minato, who was staring at his son with hate-filled eyes, clenched his kunai in his hand. You're not killing anyone, he said through his teeth. Naruto rolled his eyes and got his sword out of its sheath. Pfft, yeah right? He paused before his face lit up. Oh yeah, I remember now. I promised a certain someone they'd die first. He disappeared and all of a sudden, something hit the ground. It was Tsunade Senju's head. Heal that bitch, Naruto yelled, a little bit of blood on his cheeks. You bastard! Jiraiya yelled as he tried to punch Naruto, but was met with a palm. Oh! Did you actually love her? That's gross. Look at her body now, her true form. It was an illusion. He then swept Jiraiya's feet from under him, making the toad Sannin fall on his ass. Anyone else? Naruto said as he looked around. The army gathered their nerves before charging with battle cries. 20 minutes later, Naruto flicked the blood off his sword. All that was left of the army was Minato Namikaze, Jiraiya, and a couple of elite jonin. That was boring. I beat your army with Kenjutsu alone. Then again, I guess it's to be expected. Naruto said. Minato teeth grinded against each other. I'm not listening to my mother by finishing you off quickly, Minato, but I just can't help it. Watching your spirit broken is the ultimate revenge. Jiraiya summoned two toads. What is it, Jiraiya-chan? Can't you see that we were busy? Cried out the woman toad. Don't know the name. Sorry. I'll refer to them as male and female toad. Who is that, Jiraiya-chan? The male toad said. Jiraiya grimaced. That's Naruto Uchiha, formerly known as Naruto Namikaze. And I believe that he is the destroyer. He's extremely dangerous, known to have destroyed IWA and Kumo in just minutes. He slaughtered the combined forces of the 5 major villages and just murdered all the ninja in Konoha except for the ones you see. The others he kidnapped. The male and female toad looked at Naruto, before both of their eyes widened. That's him. That's the child of prophecy. You can tell because he has an abnormal Rinnegan. Besides, I sense not one but 2 ancient energies coming from him. The male toad said. Jiraiya looked at the toad like he was insane. Male-sama, excuse me when I say this, but how could you say that? He's destroying the shinobi world. Jiraiya yelled. To make a new one. This boy knows that the shinobi world is corrupt, and he is the only one who can make peace. Naruto nodded. I like your toads, Jiraiya. I'll be sure to let Menma and Naruko have the contract when you and Minato die. I'm sorry, Jiraiya-chan, but we cannot fight the child of prophecy. Besides, by the way you explain things, I don't think we could beat him, the female toad said. The toads nodded before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Jiraiya stood there in disbelief before he got on his knees and bowed. Hurry and kill me. I have nothing to live for now. If you are the child of prophecy, then you will bring true peace. I wish you luck on the rest of your journey. Naruto approached Jiraiya. I hated you, Jiraiya. You were a dick to me when you came back. But I shall do what you say, Naruto said before he stabbed Jiraiya's heart into the ground. No! Minato shouted as he threw his three-pronged kunai at Naruto. Naruto ran forward and punched Minato in the stomach before he could teleport. He grabbed Minato's face and brought it down on his knee before kicking him in arm, breaking it. Minato grunted in pain before he felt his hair being pulled. He felt cold metal piercing his stomach and coughed up a little blood. I know the Rasengan now, but I made my own version of it. You see, instead of pure chakra, I did it with pure wind chakra so I could put things into it. He lifted his hand up and the air started swirling around it. Now watch closely. It'll be one of the last things you see. He activated his Manjiku. Amaterasu, he whispered, and the black flames were pulled into the wind chakra ball. This is my Amaterasu Rasengan. The powerful flames turn the wind around it black and does a lot more damage than what yours did. Feel proud, you're the first to die by this. Then again, he gave Minato a sinister look. I made this just for you. Before he plunged the self-made jutsu into Minato's chest, ending the man's life instantly. Naruto turned to the other jonins. If you don't hate me, bow. 5 of the 7 jonin bowed. Naruto sighed before he decapitated those that bowed. They were liars. I hate liars. But you too, he pointed at the 2 standing jonin. You two tell the truth, and you have my respect for that. He then heard screams from behind him. He smirked. Looks like everyone over the age of 18 is dead or dying now. You can collect the rest of the civilians who live. Tell them I say hello, Naruto said before disappearing in a kamui before the author ended the chapter. Couple of weeks later, Naruto was currently walking back to the base, knowing full well that he would have to deal with everyone he had rescued from his destruction. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair before opening the door and seeing everyone. Good evening, everyone, he said simply as if nothing had happened. Orochimaru stood up first. What have you done, Naruto? He yelled, demanding an answer. Naruto sighed again. Destroying the shinobi nations and restoring peace slowly. Currently tracking Satsuki with Zetsu and breathing oxygen. He said sarcastically. All I have to do is destroy mist and sand, but I doubt I'll have to. They should be surrendering soon enough. All of a sudden Asuma Sarutobi was holding his trench knives to Naruto's throat. How dare you destroy your home? He yelled. Naruto glared dangerously at the tan-skinned man. A home is where someone should feel safe at. Tell me, do you think I felt safe there when I was being stabbed by those shitty villagers? He asked harshly, causing Asuma to look at the ground in shame and back down. Exactly. If any of you knew what I had to go through, you would have fought with me to bring down that wretched place, he shouted as he scanned the crowd of people. He then adopted a thinking pose. Would you be able to broadcast a mind link throughout the world, connecting everyone's mind to mine so I can transmit some memories? He asked his fellow blonde. She rose an eyebrow. I guess I could, but I don't have enough chakra to do it. Besides, I need to be in a place high up, and I'm sure we're underground at the moment, she said sternly. Naruto waved her off. Chakra is nothing of the essence. I have tons, so I can lend you some to do your thing. And the high part? I can do that. Follow me, everyone, he said before he walked out of the cave, everyone following in pursuit. He shoved both hands into the dirt before a large tree smashed its way through the earth, climbing through the air steadily. He then looked at the group. Shall we? Few minutes later, everyone was now on top of the tree, ready for the show that Naruto would perform. Naruto placed a hand on Ino's shoulder. Link everyone's mind in the world, he said as she did just that with the help of his chakra. She nodded, indicating he could go now. Naruto took a deep breath. Hello. My name is Naruto Uchiha. Maybe a lot of you know me as the villain. But let me show you things in my perspective. Let me show you my memories. Let me tell you what will happen and what is to come. Somewhere in the desert, the people of Suno were both frightened and intrigued by the voice in their heads. Everyone had stopped doing their work, including the Kazekage. They then began seeing images like a video being played. They saw a little boy with black hair, running away from what seemed to be a mob. He didn't look anything over the age of 6. He then ran into an alleyway which had a dead end. Oh no! Temari said as she watched the mob close in on the boy. Everyone in the world cried for the boy as they saw him being tortured slowly. That is me when I was 6 years old. I was hated and abandoned. But then, Naruto's voice trailed off as a boy with long black hair in a ponytail and in a weasel mask came in the alleyway and watched as he burnt the mob away. Shouts of joy and cheers were heard around the world. Happy the boy was safe. They then saw the boy with a new family and new eyes. Red eyes with commas in them to be exact. He was happy with his family, and they saw touching moments. I was saved by the Uchiha clan, and I was now known as Naruto Uchiha. The voice spoke. Then it showed a group of people come back, and saw the boy angry at them, shouting at them for abandoning the boy. Then my biological family came back. At the time, I hated them. Now most of them are dead. It then showed the boy along with a girl around his age, facing 2 opponents, and all seemed to stop breathing when the girl collapsed with needles in her body. They saw as the boy then turned into a savage, killing both of his opponents with general ease, and then taking the tiny army with no mercy. They all sighed in relief as the girl stood back up. But then, a man named Danzo took my family away. The image of the boy's parents lying dead on the ground, and then his brother dying for him. But soon, then 3 people showed up, 1 plant-like thing, an old man, and a tall young man in a mask. I was taken by another family. It showed the boy training with the 3 new people who he called family. Then, the old man passed away, leaving many people having tears in their eyes as they felt the boy's pain. Then, the boy was no longer a boy but a man. He became the leader of a group and soon killed people, including a man who could turn into an octopus. It then showed 2 people, a girl and a man, being taken away from him. Then, it showed the man facing everyone in a desert-like place. They took my precious people. I needed to pay them back. The voice rang. They saw as the young man's throat was slit in front of the man, and then the man became almost savage-like again, and obliterated the force of shinobi, and saving the girl who was precious to him. He also gained a long-lost friend. Somewhere else, Satsuki sat crying her eyes out as she saw what Naruto had went through. It showed him being happy again, and then taking on his group, killing them mercilessly, and only sparing a blue-haired girl. Then, it showed the man being captured, and making him watch the death of his blonde girlfriend. He then killed a redhead, and ran away before he destroyed an entire village once again. It then showed the man kissing a black-haired girl, and then the black-haired girl left him, causing him to be sad again. It then showed the man fighting a village with only a sword, killing everyone. I got my revenge on that wretched place, the voice said. Everyone cried as they felt his anguish that led up to that point in time. And now we're here. Me, Naruto Uchiha, showing the world what I've been through. And even I still want peace. I could wreak havoc, destroy this world even, and yet, I find that I love it, and when you love something, you want to protect it. And this is the only way I can. Naruto said. Until we meet face to face, my friends, he whispered as he took his hand off of Ino's shoulder, causing her to fall to her knees, gasping for air as she was left tired and out of breath. He turned to the select few he had saved. All of them, excluding Orochimaru and Hiruzen, had tears running down their faces. He smiled sadly at them. Not much of a monster that you thought I was, huh? He whispered before lowering the tower of wood. You may leave if you like, but this place has enough space for everyone, and I could always make more rooms for my family. It's your choice, he said as he looked at the sky. The sun is going down. If I were you, I'd get some rest. And please try not to wake me up. I can be a tad cranky. He joked before going inside, letting the group follow him slowly, trying to wrap their heads around the man known as Naruto Uchiha. The family of Naruto Uchiha, those that he had spared from his wrath on Konoha, were all eating at the rather large table, smiling and talking, catching up with the dark-haired man they had knew when he was young. Hiruzen Sarutobi was eyeing Naruto curiously. "So Naruto, how are you and Satsuki? Finally kiss her yet?" Naruto, who had been drinking tea calmly, choked on it, causing Choji to hit him on the back, sending him flying into wall. Naruto glared at Hiruzen and Choji and the rest of the group as they were all laughing. "You know not to ask those types of questions when I'm drinking tea, Gigi," Naruto said as he sat back down, before he broke out into a grin. "Yeah, twice," he answered. Everyone started clapping. "Can't say I'm surprised. You guys belong to each other," Ino said with a smile. Naruto turned a light shade of red before he felt someone wrap their slender arms around his neck. "We do, don't we?" a voice said from behind him. Naruto's eyes widened as he recognized the voice. Satsuki Uchiha had returned. He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair back and grabbed the raven-haired girl into a large hug. She smiled contently as she let him take her in his arms. He buried his face deeper in her neck, a grin on his face. He realized she smelt like a mix of lavender and vanilla, which was always what she smelt like. He took a step back. "I'm glad you're back," he whispered. She smiled happily at him. "How could I ever stay away?" Naruto then leaned in and kissed her happily on the lips, causing everyone to ah, and the Konohamaru core to gag. Naruto leaned his forehead against hers before shining them both out of the room. "Somewhere in the forest. I wasn't sure if you would return or not," he said as the pair walked hand in hand. "Thank your broadcast. I felt everything else you felt, and now I know that I truly love you." He smiled faintly at the girl, no woman that stood before him. "And I've always loved you, ever since that day those foolish IWA Neens attacked us," he said. She smiled. "I think that's when I began having a crush on you as well. We must have been dumb to not have noticed," she said smiling. Naruto laughed. "Yeah, I say we were, but things have changed. For the better." She nodded happily. They turned to face each other before kissing each other passionately. They were soon interrupted by a loud cough, making both Uchihas to look to the side, and seeing a man dressed in all white, with the exception of a blank black mask. "Greetings, Uchiha," the monotone voice said. Instantly, both raven-haired Uchihas were on guard, ready to take on whatever opponent was coming. The man rose his hands. "I mean no harm." He then let out a chuckle, though it wasn't filled with amusement, but malicious intent. "Yet," Naruto unsealed his sword, "you obviously have no idea who I am, 'cause if you did, you wouldn't dare threaten me in my presence," Naruto said, activating his EMS, it spinning violently at his increased anger. The man pulled out his own sword. It was long and thin, and it had spots of black and white all around it. "I could say the same to you, Uchiha," the masked man said. He advanced forward. Satsuki went to grab her sword, but was stopped by Naruto. "Go back home. I got this." She hesitated, but then nodded and turned and ran. Naruto then looked at the man. "Now she's out of danger,"
Kai.
he yelled as a sudden weight was lifted off his shoulders. He smirked before vanishing, and then appearing above the masked man. He swung down his sword, but was surprised to see it blocked, and even more surprised to be kicked across the forest he was in. He landed on his feet, staring carefully at the stranger. "Who are you?" "Think, Uchiha. Think hard, and the answer will come," the man said. The man then charged Naruto, seemingly disappearing, and then Naruto felt a cut appear on his cheek. Naruto's eyes widened at the man. No one has matched him speed in a very long speed, especially with his Sharingan active. Naruto charged the man, swinging his blade, trying to hit the man in his side, but was blocked again. He grunted angrily as he was sent on the offensive. Sparks littered the air as both men tried to best the other in Kenjutsu, but they were so evenly matched, neither could land a lasting hit that would do any real damage to the other. Naruto and the man jumped away at the same time, their breathing going faster as they caught their breath. "You may be able to be my rival in Kenjutsu," Naruto said with a smirk as he made hand signs. But no one can rival me in ninjutsu, he shouted as he blew a series of 5 short fireballs at the man, knocking him off balance. Naruto then made a couple other hand signals, his hand sparking with lightning. Chidori stream, he yelled as the lightning surged across the hills of the forest, electrocuting everything in its path, including the man. The man, now on one knee, spoke. That is true. You were a genius when it came to ninjutsu. I'm sure even the Sage of Six Paths would be able to beat you in that. Naruto nodded at the half-formed compliment. But that doesn't mean I'm not proficient either, he said as he made his own hand seals. A large dragon made of the earth appeared and charged head onto Naruto, making him shove his hand in the ground as a large wooden wall that blocked the jutsu. Using the momentary distraction, the masked man charged the wooden wall and had a piece of paper in hand before an enormous dragon made of ink came off the page, crashing through the wall and hitting Naruto away with its tail. Naruto's eyes widened as a flashback occurred through his brain. A single word came in his mind.
Say.
Now I'm guessing you know who I am now? Naruto stood up, wincing as he felt a broken rib shake violently. He nodded. Of course I do, Sai. The man smirked before taking off his mask. About time, Uchiha. He then appeared behind Naruto and stabbed him through the stomach, making him fall. But now you must die, he whispered before they heard a sound of chirping. No! Satsuki screamed as she tried to hit Sai with the Chidori, but was unsuccessful as he grabbed her wrist, and then kneed her in the stomach, causing her to pass out. Sai adopted a thinking pose before slinging Satsuki over his shoulder and turning to Naruto, who could only watch in horror as his girlfriend was being taken, him being completely helpless. I want to see and feel the pain I felt when you killed Danzo-sama and destroyed my home, Naruto Uchiha. And you will, if you want her back, face me in 2 months' time, at the place where you destroyed the combined forces of all the shinobi nations, Sai said before turning and walking away, slowly on purpose to antagonize the man. Naruto's Rinnegan flared and Sai took this as the chance to disappear in a Shushin. Naruto looked at the sky before screaming, an almighty push unconsciously appearing out of nowhere, flattening the miles of forest that had surrounded his home. 2 months later, Naruto stood before his family, saying farewell for what might be the last time. Over the course of 2 months, he had been training vigorously, not giving any time to enjoy himself at all, only having one thought on his mind, and that was getting Satsuki back into his arms once again. I wish you luck, Hiruzen said as he placed an arm on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto, however, did not feel it. He felt numb. Ever since that night he had stopped feeling. He just nodded at the old man's words. We all wish you luck, Orochimaru said as Naruto turned away, ready to fight to get back his love. Naruto turned around and spoke for the first time in 2 months, his voice raw and hoarse. I love you guys. Goodbye, he whispered as a single tear fell from his cheek. He then disappeared in a kamui, his cloak being the last to leave their sight. The valley where Naruto kicked shinobi ass. Naruto appeared in the desert-like valley, his guard up before he saw 2 figures in the distance. He activated his Sharingan and saw the 2 figures as Satsuki and Sai. He let out a sigh of relief he hadn't known he had been holding, relieved that she was okay. His eyes then hardened at the sight of Sai, his blood boiling. Let us continue our fight, Uchiha. If you win, you get back Satsuki, he said. However, if you lose, she will die. Naruto felt a new resolve come over him. He wasn't going to let Sai win no matter what. If you really want to lose that badly, I guess I can't deny you that, Naruto said before he shifted his Sharingan to his EMS, his Rinnegan also flaring. Leave her there. I don't want her harmed. Sai nodded, thinking this was agreeable before he let go of the girl and then walking forward. Naruto began doing the same, and slowly, they picked up speed, breaking out into their fastest speed, and meeting each other's fist in the middle of the valley. They exchanged blows, a hit here, a kick there, neither of them hitting each other to make the other back down even the slightest. Sai drew his sword out, but it was met by 2 swords in a crossed position. I didn't know you dual-wielded, Sai said as the battle started shifting in Naruto's favor. Naruto smirked. I forgot I did when we first battled. Guess we can go all out now. He yelled before he was suddenly blasted backwards, but landed on his feet, his cloak dirty with dirt. I agree. I agree. Sai said before his face turned a paler color than it already was, almost turning the color of a blank piece of paper. He looked demonic in a sort of way. You see, I made a pact with the devil a few years ago. After I kill you and her, he'll take my soul. But I don't care, as long as I watch you suffer. Sai said sadistically before disappearing and landing a punch in Naruto's stomach, causing him to double over. Naruto tried to punch him, but Sai was simply too fast for him. Naruto then smirked. So, you have a demon's help, huh? He then burst into a figure of golden yellow. His hair shifted as if they were flames, a long cloak surrounding his body. Well, so do I, he shouted before he began hammering on Sai, causing the pale-faced man to go flying. Naruto then made a couple hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground as wood sprouted from the ground and hit Sai in the chest multiple times, and then being bashed in the head. Naruto rushed Sai's unguarded body and began punching him repeatedly, before slamming a Rasengan in his stomach, causing his insides to whirl and spin. I'll kill you, Sai shouted as he landed down on all fours before making hand signs. Demon style. Flames of Satan, he shouted as blue flames came hurling at Naruto. Naruto, sensing the danger, jumped up just in time to avoid the blue flames before making his own set of hand signs. Fire style. Majestic flame release, he shouted as he watched Sai be consumed by the large flames that Madara had once spat out. Naruto landed on the ground, breathing heavily, but still sensed Sai's chakra. He made his original wind Rasengan and put his Amaterasu flames in it, before making a regular Rasengan and putting wind chakra into it, causing it to adopt a shuriken-like state. Dizai, he shouted as he slowly put together both powerful Rasengans together, forming a gigantic ball of gray energy that could be heard for miles. The ground started splitting and the wind was picking up, blowing dirt around from the sheer power. This is one of my trump cards. I'd like to see you survive this, he shouted before he threw the gray-colored Rasengan at Sai. When it hit, a large sound was heard miles around, causing many to wince at the intensity of the sound. Naruto stood there, breathing heavily, almost out of chakra. His Kyuubi mode cloak had dissipated. He fell to one knee, glad it was over, or so he thought. He still felt Sai's chakra. He gasped. Impossible. He breathed out. There stood Sai in the center of the crater. His face was nothing but a fleshy mess. Both of his arms were nowhere to be seen. His kneecaps were shattered and his legs beyond recognition. What seemed to be his face was looking right at Naruto. I'm still here, a muffled voice said gleefully. Naruto's eyes narrowed, the situation reminding himself of Haiden, the Jashinist. Naruto's Rinnegan flared, and Naruto smirked. Perfect. He rose his hand, using little chakra for what he had left over, and slowly rose it up. Rocks all around Sai were now lifting up into the sky, making a tiny ball. He clapped his hands together. Planetary devastation, he yelled, causing the ground underneath Sai to give out and carry the pale man up and into the ball of rock. D, he shouted as the rock instantly crushed Sai, killing the man instantly. Naruto collapsed to the ground, landing on his chest, panting heavily. The last technique had depleted his chakra. He looked up and still saw the form of Satsuki lying down, unconscious. She was at least 200 yards away, but Naruto didn't care. He ignored the ball of earth fall down back into its crater. He ignored the fact that he couldn't walk. All that mattered was making sure Satsuki was safe. He crawled slowly towards her body, ignoring the rocks that cut him as he did. Inch by inch, foot by foot, Naruto made his way towards the Uchiha girl. Finally reaching her, he grabbed her hand and used the rest of his strength to pull the girl into his arms. He rested his chin on her head and cried silently, tears of joy, not sadness. The tears, hitting the top of her head, slowly woke her up. She leaned upwards, rubbing her eyes and yawned. Where am I? She asked herself before her eyes shifted to Naruto, her eyes widening.
Naruto-kun,
She shouted as she saw the exhausted man. He smiled at her. You're safe. Good. I may go to sleep now. Zetsu, carry me home please, and escort my Satsuki-chan, he said sleepily before drifting away to sleep. 1 month later, Naruto was currently standing in front of Meitarumi, and Gaara of the Sand, the former Mizukage, and the former Kazekage had finally surrendered willingly and recognized Naruto as the leader of the now one major shinobi nation. Naruto smiled brightly. Finally, I can call you my allies, and maybe even friends soon enough, he said. Mei returned the smile, and Gaara just let his lips twitch upwards, glad that no more bloodshed would fall upon his people. We are glad to call you an ally as well, Naruto-sama, Gaara said. Naruto waved him off. The people recognize me as the emperor now, but you, Gaara, should recognize me as an equal. After all, you are the watcher of sand, part of our now united country. Gaara nodded. And you too, Bachan. I'm your godson after all. You're the watcher of mist. I have Orochimaru looking over what was once the fire country. He had divided the 5 nations into some sort of states and put one person in charge of each. The land of rock and lightning were being watched under Asuma and Kakashi, both people that he could trust. And he knew he could trust Gaara and Mei to watch over their countries, because their people are there. Of course, Naruto-kun,
Mei replied.
The 2 former Kages bowed and went on their way to help govern their rightful countries. Naruto let out a long content sigh before looking at the sky. My mission is over, Gigi, Obito and I have finally achieved true peace, he said, a tear running down his face as he smiled. Just then, Satsuki walked into the room. Are you done yet? She asked. Naruto nodded. She walked over to him and swung her arms around the man she had known since she was 6 years old. What now? Naruto smirked deviously. Well, he said as he kissed her neck slowly, causing her to bite her lip. I was thinking of getting started on reviving the Uchiha clan to its former glory. What do you think? She kissed him deeply. I think that's a great idea, she whispered. Naruto smirked again and quickly commued to their room, where they would not come out for the next 3 days, obviously wrestling each other. Hiruzen told the Konohamaru Corps when they asked what the banging was. 13 years later, Naruto and Satsuki were currently sparring 2 young boys. One of them was 12 years old, and another had just turned 7. Naruto, who was dodging the fist of the taller of the 2, had a small smile on his face. He seemed to enjoy the boy that was trying to beat him up. Come on, Itachi. You know you can do better, he shouted playfully, earning a growl of annoyance from the young boy. It's not my fault you're strong too, San, the boy said as he began making hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he shouted as a medium-sized fireball engulfed Naruto. Itachi's eyes widened, not expecting to hit his father, and with a little worry he might have killed him. San, he shouted, obviously concerned for his dad's safety. Satsuki, who had been training the other boy, Sasuke, rolled her eyes. Naruto-kun, stop messing with Itachi's head. It's not good for him, she said simply as she quickly tripped Sasuke, making the boy fall to the ground. He rubbed his head. That wasn't fair, Sasuke shouted at his mom. Satsuki shrugged. Shinobis don't play fair, remember that. He slowly nodded in understanding. Naruto then appeared behind his wife and picked her up bridal style, causing her to let out a high-pitched squeal, causing both Itachi and Sasuke to laugh at their parents. Couldn't have said the words better, Satsuki-chan. Before he kissed her on the cheek, she blushed a light red. Idiot, she murmured. Naruto nuzzled her cheek. I'm your idiot, he whispered. She smiled softly before kissing him on the lips, much to the distaste of the 2 boys. Grusis, both boys said at once. Naruto and Satsuki glared at their children before devilish smiles crossed their lips. We'll show you what gross is, Naruto said, placing down his wife on her feet before both of them caught each child. Naruto had Sasuke, Satsuki had Itachi. They dragged them with no effort and placed them in the garbage bin. Naruto made a shadow clone. You're not allowed out until you can guess my birthday, Naruto said smugly. Itachi and Sasuke's eyes widened in horror, not being able to remember their father's birthday. Meanwhile, your mother and I will be making you another sibling, he said. Satsuki blushed a dark red before taking Naruto's hand, and both of them ran into the house, with happy smiles on their faces as they closed their door. What do they mean by that? Sasuke asked his older brother. Itachi shuddered. You don't want to know, he said mildly. The Naruto shadow clone began laughing. I love you guys. He looked up at the sky. I love every single one of you, he thought. The end. I hope you guys like the story. Comment down below when you want the next part. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Legacy signing off.